Midterm elections in the United States are playing out as most had predicted. Most media organisations now saying the Republicans have regained control of the House of Representatives, with attention turning to the Senate. For analysis, joining me here in the Sky News Centre, Associate Professor Brendon O'Connor, who is the Director of Teaching and Learning at the United States Studies Centre. Brendon, thanks for joining us
My
today.
pleasure.
So now the likelihood is that the Democrats will hold on to the Senate. They've lost the House of Representatives. What's this going to mean for Obama for the next 2 years?
Major setback. I mean, the Senate will just be a slim majority to the Democratic Party, Obama's party. The House, it looks like there's been quite a wave. They needed 39 seats, the Republicans, to take the majority. It looks like they'll get over that, maybe up to 50, which will be a terrible setback for Obama's administration. I mean, Obama needs to get any bit of legislation through the Congress, through the House and through the Senate, and this will be very, very difficult. There'll be a likelihood of a lot of gridlock, a lot of argument, a lot of fracture on Capitol Hill in Washington.
Is he a lame duck president from here on?
Well, we might have seen the most activist 2 years. We might have seen Obama in some ways at his best for his first term as president. There'll be talk of the need to compromise, of finding middle ground, of bipartisanship. But that's going to be difficult to achieve because the Republicans will want Obama to seem like he's a lame duck and therefore suggest that a Republican president needs to be elected in 2012.
I note, looking back at some history, that Bill Clinton survived a disastrous midterm result. That was back in '94. He went on to win a second term. So it has been done.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's almost predictable that there's going to be somewhat of a backlash against the presidential election results, and this has occurred a number of times. Reagan lost seats. Reagan's party lost seats in '82 as well. But Clinton was someone who wished to triangulate, wished to move to the centre in some ways, even in his campaign of '92, where Obama in 2008 campaigned as the candidate of change, as a candidate who would bring new ideas, fresh ideas to America, that it was a repudiation of the Republican Party. And so to think that that new era only lasts for 2 years is quite extraordinary. I mean, it maybe suggests how impatient voters are in the United States, and it suggests, I think, a degree of a pox on both parties, that people are disillusioned with both the Democrats and the Republicans, and this may just be a kind of a cyclical thing that, you know, power or at least control to do things will only be given to you for a very short time.
I note that ABC News has called the Senate now for the Democrats, so we're sort of locking in those results at this stage. Let's talk about the Tea Party movement. How influential has it been in these results? Is it really what's tapped into the rage of those people who feel like they're not being represented by this government?
Well, it's been a great story. I mean, it's a great marketing label. The Tea Party refers to the Boston Tea Party of the late 18th century, when American colonists said to the British, we don't want taxation without representation, we want more limited government, I suppose, is the message these modern Tea Party people have taken from that. And they've given a lot of energy to the Republican Party, but they also want to see the Republican Party change. They want to see the Republican Party become a more anti-government party, a more sort of conservative party, and maybe a more radical party in some of its political tactics. So this is going to be a problem for people like John Boehner, who are more moderate, or at least more establishment within the Republican Party, and there'll be a major management issue between these insurgent Tea Party types who will say the wind is in our sails, we're the wave of the future, and the old guard who will say, look, if we're painted to be too radical like Christine O'Donnell was in Delaware, we'll lose in the future. We can't overdo some of the rhetoric here, and there'll be a want to tone it down to a degree.
A couple of big-name Democrats have survived. Senator Barbara Boxer in California, was that one that looked particularly dicey?
I didn't think so. I think California is really, a bastion for the Democratic Party, the coast, really, of the United States, where the Democrats are doing well. They've won 2 Senate seats in New York. They're probably likely to win in Washington State. It's the Midwest that's the real problem for the Democrats, that's where they've suffered major losses in Congress and in governor races in the Midwest.
Can they turn that around, do you think?
Well,
what's the key to the Midwest then?
Well, I suppose the Midwest is tending to be fairly conservative. I mean, maybe in times where you can get a lot of young people out to vote, there's quite a lot of college students in those states, you can do well. So maybe in presidential years, 2008, maybe 2012. But in these midterm elections, my sense would be that the Republicans are going to tend to do better in midterms, where they have a stable group of people who tend to vote more regularly, where the Democrats are relying on waves of voters and they rely on young people who are fickle voters, Hispanics who haven't come out in large numbers, working poor, and those people might get really enthused about a presidential candidate, but the Congress is not something they're probably that excited about and harder to get them to vote.
Okay, Professor Brendon O'Connor, thanks for your time today.
My pleasure.